Welcome to a brand new episode of the Bold Take Podcast. I'm Austin Hill. With me, as always, is Austin Wader, and we're back talking college football action from an exciting week nine where a lot of those trap games, week nine, a lot of those trap games we talked about last week. Look, they didn't all end in a loss for the expected team to win, but our favorites. But they certainly played it close, and a lot of these teams got a little bit of a wake-up call here coming to the end of the season that you can't just walk into some of these games. And that starts with number 16, Virginia, heading down to Chapel Hill, taking on a North Carolina team that was at 2-4, just had a heartbreaking, gut-wrenching loss where it feels like really they did everything to win that game and then come up with a loss. Uh, and so we thought maybe momentum would be riding high for Virginia in this game. I certainly did. But this game went to overtime and was very narrowly, I mean, we're talking about inches away from a North Carolina victory.
Yeah, it really was. Really close game. Virginia's offense really struggled throughout. Most of it couldn't really get going on the ground, especially in this game. I think only like 50 something yards rushing. North Carolina's defense stepped up, got to overtime. Had a chance there, like I said, just a mere inches away for North Carolina. And I feel like that sums up the year for North Carolina if it didn't already. I think it's safe to say with how the football season's gone for them. Still blows my mind, wondering if Bill Belichick's going to be here long term and how he's managed to outlast other coaches, including some that were changed last night, if I'm being honest with that. And Virginia 7-1. Hey, due to some things happening in the ACC, they control their destiny. Them and Georgia Tech win out. They're going to in ACC play because Georgia Tech plays Georgia end of the year, so they don't gotta play all ACC at the end of the year. But all Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech win out their ACC games. That's going to be our matchup in the ACC championship. So we'll see if that can lead to it. Obviously, still some tough games for both sides, but we'll see how it goes. But a tight win for Virginia. They've had a couple like that this year.
Yeah. And you mentioned the thing about Bill Belichick outlasting a lot of these coaches. I will say one thing: if North Carolina's doing one thing right, it's hey, you don't hire a coach and then fire them 7 games into their first season. Though it has not been going super duper well. But you're right. Will Bill Belichick be here for the long haul? That's actually my next question for you here. I kind of talked about earlier in the season. My hypothesis was no matter really how good or bad this season went in North Carolina. I thought that Bill Belichick was going to use this opportunity just to coach a year and then try to springboard back into the NFL for the upcoming season. With the way things have gone in Chapel Hill, do you think that that's at all in the realm of possibility for Bill Belichick? Or do you think maybe with the disastrous kind of results so far this season, maybe that's scaring NFL organizations away?
I never want to say never for it because, well, of what he's done in the NFL. So I don't want to say never, but I mean, it's going to be tough for NFL teams to look at him and be like, who really wants him? And then at the same time, with North Carolina talking about it, would they be willing to make the change or how are they going to react? Because of the way this coaching carousel is going, do you really want to be in the market for a coach this offseason? It's a simple question. So it's a do we bite the bullet and bring back Bill Belichick for another year if no NFL teams are offering him, or are we just like, you know what? Let's take a risk. We tried it, it didn't work out. We'll see what happens there. But I won't say never. But if I'm Bill Belichick, I got my Super Bowl rings. I gave college a try. It has clearly not worked out. I say make an agreement with North Carolina end of the year, kind of just maybe part ways or give it another year and then go on becoming an NFL analyst for the rest of your career. At least that's to me what he should do. We'll see what he actually does, but never say never with the NFL, but I view it as highly unlikely.
Yeah, personally, I wish Bill Belichick had stayed on with the Manning cast,
Hmm.
where he did what the third quarter with them, or like a second quarter with
He
them. I
always
can't remember.
started with them. He always it
Or
was I think it
started
like
with them.
started
Okay,
with them, I think,
so
or but he was always on there every single week talking with them for like 2 or 3 quarters.
yeah, they would hang out, and I already liked the Manning cast as my default Monday Night Football
Same.
watch. And then to throw him into the mix was exciting. But I'll say this, I'm with you. I certainly think the way the season's gone, NFL teams might take a second guess. but I'm also not going to say never. And I'm still inclined to believe that he probably will be coaching in the NFL next year. Of course, I'll have egg on my face when we come around next year and he's not. But he's Bill Belichick. Like you said, what he's done in the NFL cannot be denied. And I don't know who it'll be, but there's always a team looking to make something happen, make something exciting happen. Maybe Miami, trying to shake some things up and make some magic, and just try and find anything that'll stick, to make something happen. I think that somebody would be willing to reach on Bill Belichick. I'd be surprised if he's back in North Carolina, but I will say this: if he doesn't take an NFL job, I don't think he'll retire. And I think if you're North Carolina, with all the teams that are going to be looking for coaches this offseason, look at all the teams in the SEC that are looking. You got Penn State looking. I think you fall right now as the least likely spot.
Yep.
Maybe above you. You're right above UAB right now with all the job openings. To be like where somebody wants to go. So I don't want to be having to chase around my fourth or fifth option at head coach. When this past offseason we got our number one option in Bill Belichick, at least we assume, and that hasn't worked out well. So I think, honestly, the best thing for this team might be to just stick to Bill Belichick this year, because the fight that it's going to take with some of these bigger, more established programs in a better conference, I think is going to make it a little bit tough for North Carolina. But speaking of that SEC, we had Ole Miss and Oklahoma face off, and what we kind of both considered as a playoff eliminator more than likely. I know this only puts Oklahoma to 2 losses in the 34-26 loss to the Rebels. But look, that Texas loss was bad. This is a loss here. And then you got to think about it. There are going to be other 2-loss SEC schools closer to the end of this season, who maybe look a little bit better than you, maybe had a little bit of a better season. So I look at this as, more of an eliminator. And obviously the AP poll, I viewed this as a pretty big game. We'll talk about where Oklahoma ends up. This week, I will remember, we will talk about the AP poll, even though it's a little bit less exciting than it was last week. But just your thoughts on this big-time matchup in the SEC, where Ole Miss's offense got back on track, in my opinion.
Yeah, the final score makes this look a heck of a lot closer than it actually was. Ole Miss had control of this game pretty much the whole time. The only thing that really sparked it was that third quarter. Oklahoma's offense had done virtually nothing. John Mateer was having to do everything, which I just want to add. I'm sad to see it for John Mateer, but are we really surprised? The man literally had surgery on his throwing hand, less than a month ago, right? If I remember correctly.
Less than a month ago.
So am I surprised that the throwing is maybe not as good as it was? No, because the man literally just had surgery on his throwing hand. I don't care how miracle this doctor was at Oklahoma. You're not going to be able to have surgery on your hand and then come out a month later and be like, yep, Heisman favorite. I'm out here slinging. That's not how it's going to work. And this was part of my issue. Now, the thing that helped Oklahoma, third quarter, they got the run game going. That's what helped them kind of get back in this game. They were able to run the football, break some big runs. And somehow, some way, I looked at entering near the end of the third quarter. I was like, the hell? How is Oklahoma winning this game? Because Ole Miss had thoroughly outplayed them. Their defense had played really solid throughout most of the game. Couple of busted coverages to Isaiah Satania for that long touchdown, then that long touchdown run. But really, I want to give credit to this Ole Miss offense. Really efficient, going against arguably one of the best defenses in college football in Oklahoma. Really efficient, really didn't have major issues against this OU defense. They were able to pass the ball really well. Running game was pretty solid whenever they wanted to run the ball. So, Ole Miss, again, the final score in the third quarter really kind of makes it look different. But Ole Miss was the clear cut, in a way, the better team here in the matchup. And you look at the rest of Ole Miss's schedule: South Carolina, the Citadel, Florida. All three of those are at home. And then you're at Mississippi State. I don't want to, because again, I don't want to, but I feel, to me, we can almost pencil Ole Miss in as, they're going to be in the playoff, because last year, what was it? They were at 2 losses at this point, and they couldn't afford another one because they lost that game to Kentucky. That made no sense on the schedule. That was like, how the heck did you lose that game? They haven't had a loss like that. Their only loss this year was to Georgia, which is a Okay, it was on the road at Georgia. That's fair. That's fair loss. They won every other one besides that. So now they have a little bit of breathing room. So even if they lose to South Carolina or if they lose to Mississippi State or Florida, lose to one of those teams, you win the rest of your games, you'll still be in the playoff, I think, at the end of the year. And for Oklahoma, it sucks, and it's not going to get any easier with the rest of their schedule.
No, I agree. I think the only thing we can be thankful for uh, with John Mateer and this hand surgery is hopefully it means we get to see another year of John Mateer in college football come next year. Maybe he decides to stick it out another year and make something happen. But yeah, like you said, with Ole Miss, they can probably afford another loss on the schedule. Though I really don't know if it'll happen with those teams.
Exactly. Like they could probably go, they'll probably will go 11-1. But if they were to slip up against Mississippi State or someone to finish 10-2, you look out and go, yeah, they'll still be a playoff team.
Yeah, completely agree with you there. The American action continues to get wild. Memphis, after getting upset by UAB last week, heads into this big matchup with USF, and they get the victory 34-31. It was a comeback effort for this team, but they get the job done. 17 unanswered in the fourth quarter for the Memphis Tigers. And this kind of levels out that American Conference again. Now South Florida falls to 6-2 because they did have the loss to Miami, but now both these teams have one loss in conference and it kind of puts them on a level playing field. But now you kind of look ahead and you see how well North Texas has been playing, who also has one loss in conference. You see Navy, who's now in charge of the conference, undefeated so far. So now, like you said, we've seen these teams kind of start to beat up on each other, and now we're wondering who in a couple months is going to be playing in this American Championship, and how many losses will the winner of this conference end up having by the end of the season? Because yeah, right now it doesn't look like anybody has an upper hand on anybody.
Now, to help you make sense of this, as of right now, according to the odds lean Tulane as the favorite now to win this conference, which we're not even talking about them right now. North Texas and Navy, my goodness, that's a game I know we're going to talk more about later, so
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not going to go into detail, but what a matchup that's going to be on Saturday. With this one, yeah, it was just a bad fourth quarter from South Florida's offense. Besides that, they played great. 3 quarters throughout this game, they had control. They were able to do well on the ground, nearly 300 yards rushing. Byron Brown was solid. 3 quarters through, it looked like, okay, they're going to cruise to a win here, remain on top of the American, and really kind of separate themselves from the rest of the American. Then you had 6 plays and a punt. Then you had another punt. Then a missed field goal. And then, I mean, it just all just kind of fell apart for them in that fourth quarter. Credit to Memphis, though, for some of those drives. Those were some very tough drives that they were able to do in this game. I'll go ahead and put my hand up. Brendan Lewis, I'll put my hand up. I was wrong about it. 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns in this game against South Florida's defense, which has been pretty solid. I said make him throw the ball to win. They made him throw the ball, and Memphis won the game. So I'm going to sit here and not going to lie. But yeah, like I said, this American Conference, this was my fear with it, was all these teams are so good, there's just going to be one after the other, taking the other out. And like I talk about, North Texas and Navy play each other this week. Memphis and Tulane play in 2 weeks. So those two, that's an eliminator for the playoff. Memphis still has to play Navy end of the season. So, I mean, these teams could just end up beating each other up for it. Now, again, for South Florida, what helps them? The non-conference schedule still helps them out a good bit. However, they still have to play Navy at Navy. So, well, we're gonna find out about this quickly. But this American Conference, I genuinely have no idea what's gonna happen. Like I said, I'm kind of worried with these teams beating each other up. Are we gonna see a surprise team really kind of come out and steal that 12 seed for the group of five spot? These teams beat each other up, possibly like a James Madison. Anybody? Don't forget about James Madison.
Yeah, you certainly can't forget about the Dukes and the way they're playing right now. But it's going to be exciting. Finish the American, like we said, we're both looking forward to and excited about it. But this was a good game for Memphis, like I said, to stay in this race and stay in this picture in the American Conference because they certainly could not have afforded two losses
Mm-mm,
back to back. Uh,
mm-mm.
but then let's take it over to the SEC and look, we saw Alabama survive an absolute storm. And again, we talk about it every week how much different in so many ways this team is from last year's team. And we saw it again in this one. Down late to an unranked opponent, an unworthy opponent last year, you could have wrote this Alabama team off. It's done. It's over. South Carolina wins this game. Last year, South Carolina wins this game. This
Yeah.
year, we see Alabama dig deep. The defense makes the plays they need to make. The offense makes some big, exciting plays. This was an awesome performance for Alabama to come back and win this one. But just on social media this morning, and I see somebody post the clip from the end of the game where Jeremy Bernard takes that fake toss, reverse, whatever was going on there,
Right.
to the house at the end of the game, and they're like, "Look at number one. He just sticks his hands up and lets him run in the end zone. What are you doing? Could
Yeah.
have pushed him out of bounds. Why? Why
Why would
push
you
him
push
out
him
of
out of
bounds?
bounds?
There's 40 seconds on the clock. No timeout, South Carolina. You push them out of bounds, they run the clock down, and they kick the easiest field goal of all time. And in fact, they had what, two or three timeouts of their own. They could have
Right.
centered it and then kicked
Exactly.
an even easier field goal. Letting him get in the end zone with 40 something seconds left is the exact right play. The fact that Bernard, honestly, great play. And I'm usually a guy that's like, take your points when you can get them. But this situation was so easy and you were so open as a ball carrier, you have to realize why am I actually walking into the end zone right now? Because there were
Hmm.
guys in my way. Like how I walked in untouched. And you got to realize just get down even if you step out of bounds there. Like I said, you got timeouts, gives you a chance to center the ball. Um but he gets in and scores. But that was South Carolina's best opportunity to make anything happen in this game. Was to run this to let this ball get into the end zone. So just a lack of ball knowledge there. But look, South Carolina was the better team pretty much this entire game. Lenore Sellers looked good. This is the South Carolina we kind of expected all season and just haven't seen. But still, even in that circumstance, this Alabama team rises and they ring the bell.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in a way, I'm impressed by Alabama with this. Like I said, I was gonna come on and be like, I'm impressed with them. Like, what are you talking about? They nearly lost to 3 and 4 South Carolina. Yeah, they would have lost this game last year, but I mean, what a drive that was to tie it up. They just scored that touchdown to go up by 8 with like 10 minutes left in the game, and they go on a 14 play, 79-yard drive to tie it up, and then get or score it, and then get the 2 point conversion to tie it up. And then you talk about that score and all. Here's my question. I, if you were wanting to go to overtime, if you're South Carolina, run the ball fine. But why are we running with Lenore Sellers with the game if we're just looking to run the ball and go in overtime? That was my question there. If you just wanted to go in overtime, take a knee and just go into overtime, you know, because you tried it on first down. You weren't able to really get much. Then there was the penalty on Alabama. So you think, okay, maybe we could try. But then you decide, maybe let's play it safe. There's, a minute 51 left. If we want to just run the ball and then pin them deep and see if we can stop them and get to overtime, then that's fine. But they run it with him. He fumbles, and then Bama's able to score the touchdown. And again, talking about the play there, I'll just add, I mean, South Carolina was smart. At first, it was 3rd and 10. So you're like, obviously, let's stop them here, make them kick the field goal. We'll be good. But once Jeremy Bernard got to the other side of the field on the reverse, and there was virtually no one there, and he picked up the first down, South Carolina was absolutely right to let him score. Now, if they stopped him short, it's a different story here from what we're doing. But once he picked up the first down, they were smart to be like, let's just back off and let him score. But good win for Bama to finally get the monkey off the back of Kalen DeBoer since last year, beating a average, mediocre SEC team on the road this year. And again, everything's in front of Alabama still. Obviously you got LSU. Who the heck knows what the mindset's going to be there for LSU when we talk about that. But you get a bye week this week, and then you got a reset for LSU, Oklahoma, Eastern Illinois, which should be one you win, and then you're at Auburn. I'm not really worried about the LSU and Oklahoma game for them. I just keep on circling that Auburn game because it's at Jordan Hare, and weird stuff happens when it's Alabama and Auburn playing at Jordan Hare. So
Yeah,
just keep that in mind for it. But good win for Bama here to kind of get that monkey off the back of the board from last year.
absolutely. Um, then we have Vandy keep on a rolling with another ranked victory here, 17 to 10. Look, this wasn't the prettiest game uh,
Mm-mm.
on the scoreboard by any means. But that again kind of shows what this Vandy team does. They don't play pretty football, but they play gritty football and they go out there and they get the job done. Now, important, Missouri was sans Bo Prabula for the majority of this game, had that ankle injury. Probably could have
Mm.
used him down the stretch in this game. But nonetheless, an impressive victory for Vanderbilt, playing against a tough opponent in Missouri.
Yeah, Missouri had 10 more first downs, had nearly 100 plus yards more of total offense, had nearly 30 more plays run, had a 13-minute lead in time of possession of this game. And you think, well, how the hell did Missouri lose this game? With all those stats. Red zone efficiency. Mizzou was 1 for 3 in the red zone. Vandy 2 for 2. Mizzou tried to convert in the red zone. They had the missed field goal, and then obviously the fourth down fail, which was the injury for Prabula, which was just hard to watch for him. I felt really bad because he had finally earned the chance to be a starter and was doing so good, and then to have that happen to him. The way Drinkwitz talks about it is like he thinks he might be able to come back at the very, very end, and I'm like, brother, it's a dislocated ankle. Let the kid heal up. Let's not try to hurt the kid even more than what was already happening. So to go in for Vandy for the defense to make the plays in the red zone to stop them, and then obviously the missed field goal. So good for Vandy. 7-1. Their schedule left at Texas this weekend, where Arch might not be playing in the game. So who knows what happens there. Then you host Auburn and host Kentucky. Then you're at Tennessee to end the year. Uh, I'll just say it like this again. It's all in front of them. It is all in front of Vandy to get up there and move your way to the top. I really look forward to seeing what that Tennessee matchup is come the end of the season because that could be a top 10 matchup and realistically could determine, which one of those teams gets in the playoff and which ones maybe are on the outside looking in, kind of like Bama was last year. So that'll be the interesting one. But they still got to get through Texas, Auburn, and Kentucky. But a good win for Vandy and for Mizzou. It sucks for Prabula, um, but still a really talented team. We'll see what they can do. Obviously, they got a bye week, fortunately, to get the new QB ready before they host A&M, who looks to be a serious problem. Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Arkansas can still finish the year strong, but this ultimately eliminates them from the playoffs, especially with the Prabula injury.
Yeah, agreed. Those that second loss in conference right now is just going to be tough to kind of get over with so much schedule left. And again, even if you went out, you're surely going to be paired up against a couple other, compared against a couple other two-loss SEC schools by the end of it. Um, Texas storms back in a thriller in Starkville. The Bulldogs fall 45 to 38 in OT. And man, oh man, like around just after halftime, I was like, go ahead and call that game. Texas hasn't shown up. Let's kick him out of the top 25. Uh, Missouri or Mississippi State is running away with this game. And then I'm watching, I believe maybe Vandy, Missouri, no, SC Alabama. And they flash over to this game and they're like, Texas has tied it and they're going to overtime. What? What? What is happening? I was like, did I wake up in an alternate reality? But your thoughts on this game? I mean, I was perplexed.
Shout out ESPN Multiview. I was able to put this on and Bama and South Carolina and Vandy and Missouri on it all at the same time. So I was able to keep up with them all. Shout out ESPN for the Multiview. It's one of the few good things ESPN has done in recent memory. But yeah, it was 38-21. I saw the big touchdown run, shaping through the pass to Booth. He took it 60 something yards for a touchdown. They're up 17 with 12 minutes left, and you're thinking, man, I mean, that's just great for them. And again, it proves it with Tex. They were like, really? You think Arch is going to come back in this game? Now, they went down the field and scored a touchdown. That's fine. 10-point game, not to worry. The thing that hurt Mississippi State in this was which is something that I really don't blame them for doing, but it ultimately did cost them, was they stayed in their up-tempo offense. And they got behind
Yeah.
the sticks for third and long, and then they went 3-and-out. Then Texas got the momentum, got a field goal. Then tried to get the up tempo going again. Another 3-and-out. Texas goes down, gets a touchdown on the punt return. And so that's truly what cost them there in the end, is them sticking to their guns, which I have no issue with, but that's ultimately what cost them. Was they're like, let's go, let's keep the momentum going. It's like, okay, maybe work a little bit of clock here to make sure they have a little bit less time. That's ultimately what happened here. And then obviously the big thing, Arch gets knocked out with a concussion. So now you got the backup quarterback in I forget what his first name is. I know the last name's Caldwell. I think Matthew Caldwell, I think is the name officially.
It starts with an M. I can tell you that much.
But anyway, he has to come in and he makes a great throw to the sideline for the touchdown right in front of Brandon Walker. That was pretty funny, I can't lie.
Yeah.
So that was, and then you had the defense get the stop there. Look, this is a game similar to the Kentucky game last week that Texas should have lost. They should have lost both those games. This should be a team sitting at 4-4, and we're wondering what the future holds for Sark, along with those NFL reports that came out early on Saturday about him potentially being interested in going to the Titans. Which that's exactly what this coaching carousel needs, is the Texas job to be open along with all the other jobs that have been open with it. But they're able to bounce back and hang on and win these games. Problem is, again, those were two of probably the worst teams in the SEC. Now you're playing back-to-back top 10 opponents in Vanderbilt and Georgia. So can you learn from the mistakes you had in those wins and use them to help you kind of be able to take down Vanderbilt and then take down Georgia, possibly take down A&M end of the year at home? But it sucks for Mississippi State. But again, they look so much better than last year. They just got to be able to finish the job. That's the only thing that's holding them back, because they've had many close SEC games. They just can't finish it in the clutch.
Yeah, I agree. It's just been, look, it's definitely been a step up from what we've seen in years past for this Mississippi State program. And it's been fun to see. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like they're right there. Now the next step has got to be finishing these games.
Like realistically, they should be 3-1 in the SEC, because they should have beaten Tennessee at home in overtime. They had a really good chance to win that. A&M one was a blowout, so that one I'm not going to worry about. Florida, they were literally in field goal range to kick the game-winning field goal and threw an interception. And then this Texas game, you're up by 17 in the fourth quarter. This should be a 3-1 team in SEC play right now.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's just about taking that next step. If you want to keep growing the program, that's where you got to go. But look, the trend continues. And look, I said I didn't want it to happen, but it's just something about this conference that just loves a little bit of chaos. Houston keeps the Big 12 trend going with a 24-16 victory over Arizona State. And man, I've honestly been impressed with what Houston's been able to do this season and what they've gotten out of Connor Weigman, really playing like into his skill set and really kind of developing their offense around the way he plays. It's been exciting to see kind of the way this team goes about it and the way he handles himself. But your thoughts on the ever-changing Big 12?
Yeah, Houston's reminded me a bit of Arizona State last year. Arizona State, was that an elite football team? No, but they were winning the close games, so therefore it looked a lot better than it was. You look at it with Houston, they were this close to losing to now one win Oregon State. They were this close to losing to Arizona last week, and they were this close to losing to Arizona State, but they're finding a way to win these one-score games. The defense played solid, and now they're sitting at 7-1. So great for them. Great for them. They're winning the close games. That's why they've been managed to stay at the top. For Arizona State, the issue again in this one, as it was in the Utah game, Sam Levitt was not 100%, and he was taking a lot of hits. And eventually didn't get to play the end of the game. They put Jeff Sims in at the end of the game, who actually led a touchdown drive in that game for him. It can be something to tell his grandchildren about in a couple of years if he ever leaves college football. Who knows?
Tell his
But
grandchildren about in 2 years.
yeah, I was about to say, so 2 years, not far away, not far
Not
away,
long, not long at all.
not long. But so it hurts for Arizona State because that's yet another game where you're like, they were close because that's two of their three losses. The Utah one is the one where obviously Sam Levitt didn't play, and it resulted in being just butt kicking of a lifetime. So it sucks for Arizona State. But again, that was the whole thing last year. They won so many close games that's ultimately what helped them out. This year, they're losing a couple of those one-score games, and now it's kind of backfiring on them. So don't get me wrong, still a good team, still a very good team. Just got to get there better talent wise, and then we'll see. But for Houston, they kind of took that Arizona State magic, and like you said, they've knocked Arizona State out of the rankings, and they've taken their place.
Yeah, and it's just kind of the trend that continues. We'll see what Big 12 team might find themselves in the rankings this coming week. That remains to be seen. But taking a look at the Big 12 standings, because we're at that point in the season where it's time to look at the Big 12 and see kind of where everybody stands. But look, I am only going to eliminate 3 teams from the Big Ten title picture. I think anybody who doesn't have 4 losses in conference and can go above 500 with their conference record stands a chance in my book. So I'm eliminating 0-5 Oklahoma State, 0-5 West Virginia, and 1-4 Colorado. But look, let's look at everybody who's still alive in this conference. Obviously, BYU and Cincinnati, both 5-0 in conference. They are very much fighting for a spot in the championship here. You've got Texas Tech at 4-1 and Houston at 4-1. Then you've got Utah, Kansas State, Arizona State, and TCU at 3-2. Iowa State, Baylor, and Kansas at 2-3, and then Arizona and UCF at 1-3. Now, maybe these 3-loss teams don't have much of a chance, but that remains to be seen. Right now, anything can happen, and with the way the Big 12 happens, it very possibly will happen.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting finish. Obviously, BYU had a really impressive win at Iowa State this weekend. A game that if I remember correctly, me and you both were like, yeah, Iowa State's going to win this game. It's just how the Big 12 works. And then a couple turnovers by Iowa State at home ultimately was the difference. Now BYU gets to rest a little bit, gets a week off here, but then they go to Lubbock and face Texas Tech in what will probably be where College Game Day goes. I imagine they would be heading to Lubbock for that with how good that matchup potentially could be. And then Cincinnati, they're at College Game Day this week. We're heading to Utah to take on Utah in a Saturday night game there in Salt Lake. Good luck, Cincinnati. I know you may be a good team, but so many good teams have fallen down when it comes to playing a night game in Utah. It's hard to win there. So we could be looking at those two teams falling to 5-1. And then, Austin, we could have, BYU 5-1, Cincinnati 5-1, Texas Tech 5-1, and then maybe even Houston at 5-1. So, I mean, we could have a 4-way tie at the top of this Big 12 2 weeks from now if it all plays out like that. So, we'll see how it goes. It will be interesting to see how it goes in this Big 12. I'm not ruling anybody out. Shoot, Utah, Kansas State, Arizona State, TCU. Arizona State and Iowa State, I will say, will be an eliminator, I think, for somebody, at least in my mind this weekend. One of those two teams, I think, is going to fall to 3 losses or 4 losses if it's Iowa State. So, be interesting in this Big 12. But I would not be shocked if 2 weeks from now we're looking at 4 teams sitting at this conference at 5-1. Wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the final game we're going to talk about from last week, Texas A&M sends Brian Kelly packing with a 49-25 victory in Death Valley. And the statement wins keep piling up for this Texas A&M team. It's hard not to look at them as a legitimate contender. I know they're sitting at number 3 in the AP poll right now, but, it feels like sometimes we're wondering, Can this team really keep this up all season long? And so far they have. They beat Notre Dame in exciting fashion. And look, now they get this win against LSU. They have just been a different force right now. And they've been exciting. So your thoughts on Texas A&M before we delve into obviously the bigger news from this game?
Yeah, with A&M when it comes down to it, pure and simple, they just look like an incredible team. Offensively, they're great. They're able to run the ball. They did this without Le'Veon Moss in this game, too. I think is something people need to remember. They did this without Le'Veon Moss running the football for them. Marcel Reed had a great game, 100 yards rushing. He threw the ball well. Their defense, they're super strong. They're physical. They're able to get pressure on the quarterback, force turnovers. And then special teams, KC Concepcion, what a punt return he had in that game. Uh, they were losing at halftime to LSU in this game. Yeah, I even for my belief in the magic of Death Valley, and I was saying at halftime, I'm like, they're going to win this game because they just look like the better team throughout that entire first half, and they just had a few things not go their way. I felt they're the better team; they'll win the second half. Now, did I expect them to walk in and by the end of the third quarter have Death Valley Stadium empty and them cheering with their fans at the end of the third quarter? No, I did not expect that there. I mean, that was uh, as electric as it was, and then for them to do that, song that they do there, where they're all arm in arm at the end of the game in Tiger Stadium. You don't see many people do that. This team's different. I don't know if they're national championship level good, like they can win a national championship, but they're good enough where they're going to compete in the playoff in Austin. We are one win away for A&M from not seeing an 8-4 season for the Aggies. Like I don't know if I'm ready for that. I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
ready for a not 8-4 Texas A&M team. I don't think we're ready for it.
Jimbo Fisher conditioned you for a different type of Texas A&M football.
But that's some
Um,
give Mike Elko a ton of credit for the situation. Let's not forget how close they were to hiring a certain coach at Kentucky to being their next head coach, and now obviously the fans revolted and they were able to get Mike Elko. So again, they have Missouri next week. That matchup just got a whole lot easier without Bo Perbula playing. Then they host South Carolina, host Samford, and then they're at Texas in that game on Friday night to end the year. I mean, we could be looking at them in Atlanta, maybe undefeated. Who knows? They might be playing for that number one seed in college football playoff if they're able to go undefeated throughout all this.
yeah, it's crazy to think about. So exciting to look at what this team has been capable of all season long. Um, but look, the bigger news coming out of this game, Brian Kelly fired. And look, I really have been saying it pretty much since Notre Dame made the national championship, that the seat was going to get hot this year for Brian Kelly. You talk about 3 years since he left Notre Dame for LSU. And his big thing coming to LSU. He's excited to be in the SEC, compete for a national championship. Notre Dame just didn't have the resources to compete for a national championship. 3 years later, now, well, 3.5 now. Notre Dame's been to a national championship, loses by a possession, and Marcus Freeman's third season as the head coach ever in college football. And in his third season at LSU, they haven't even sniffed the college football playoff yet. Um, so the seat was hot. And this felt like a year where anybody could win the SEC, as we're seeing in the
Yeah.
SEC with some
Mm-hmm.
unreal talent being unleashed. And they have a very good and capable team, and they're still not executing. Something had to give for this LSU team, especially with how wild this coaching carousel is going to get. Being LSU, you're definitely going to be a big draw.
Yeah. So real quick before I dive into what the LSU job was talking about with Brian Kelly, it was a hire. I still remember whenever it happened, talking about it with you. I think we were at my house in Valonia whenever the news broke, if I remember correctly.
I believe so.
Um, but I just remember I'm like, okay, that's not an LSU like hire. Like it never really made sense. The reason he went there, like you said, he didn't go there to be at Louisiana and to be at LSU. He went there because it was a SEC job and he wanted to go somewhere where he felt he could compete and win a national championship. And then obviously you look at what happened with Notre Dame since what he's done with LSU. And It's just disappointing for him. It's disappointing. It's crazy how, things can just change in a year there where the offense was the reason that he even had a job still to now the offense is ultimately the reason partly that the job ultimately failed for him. So it was just a thing where it never really worked out. I don't know if any players ever truly loved playing under him. Certainly, I haven't seen that on social media. I mean, Brian Thomas was kicking rocks on his Instagram story. If that doesn't tell you how it was there for some guys, so it just was a hire you really wondered from the front was, is this really going to work? Is this really going to work out for LSU here? And it ultimately never did. And let me just say again, for the people that want the LSU job, all the talk of the coaching carousel, this is the number one job now. This is the number one job open right now, which means all those people, Lane Kiffin, James Franklin, all those top candidates for Florida and for Florida, maybe even Penn State, are now over looked at by LSU. So the coaching search again, this is the last thing I think Florida wanted. You know good and dang well Florida's sitting there at the desk like, why didn't we fire Billy last year? Why didn't we do it last year? We should have done it last year and we didn't do it. And I'm sure there's Arkansas also slamming the desk saying, why are we doing a coaching search in this year? As are all the other teams in the Power Four, because these jobs are going to get open. I still imagine 3 or 4 more big jobs opening in the Power Four conferences still by the end of the season. And so this is going to be tough. And for a coach, though, you got to be honest with it, Austin. Going to LSU, the expectation is playoff or bust with LSU. If you're not making the playoff every single year, your head could be on the line. And that's ultimately what it was for Brian Kelly. 4 years of not making the college football playoff. You got some grace in year one because it was year one after what Ed Orgeron had done. But you kept on bringing in talents offensively, and the team as a whole just wasn't reaching the potential. And that's ultimately what cost the job there. There's several names that I think could be a great fit here. I'll go ahead and say it. John Summerall, Tulane, an in-state hire, I think would make fans very happy. Plus, it'd be a different approach from their recent coaches. A young, defensive-minded coach is something we really haven't seen in a hot minute at LSU, if I'm being honest. That's why I think it could be a good hire. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts? Who do you think should be a top candidate for this LSU job? I guess let me say it. Top LSU candidate not named Lane Kiffin. Let's just leave Lane Kiffin out because we know he's going to be a part of all coaching searches.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money there as far as Lane Kiffin is concerned. Another name I'll throw out, kind of more as obvious, is James Franklin. I think obviously he's going to have some suitors. Look at what he's done in his career, and we'll see what kind of opportunities he gets. And kind of on the opposite end of the Brian Kelly spectrum, former players had nothing but great things to say about James Franklin. Guys love playing for James Franklin.
Yeah.
Current and former players, gave James Franklin his flowers after he was fired. So you're going to be getting a guy who can create that bond with his players, and you're going to be getting something, super talented.
Yeah.
But look, I'm going to keep throwing this name out here because I think it's something we could really see happen. Kenny Dillingham, I think, is a guy that is going to get a lot of looks this year. He's at Arizona State. But look, he's an offensive guru. He comes from, he was the OC with Dan Lanning at Oregon. And the turnaround at Arizona State. Look at what he's done at Arizona State. Now you get a chance to lead that Big 12, and you've got all these big time jobs open in the SEC and the Big 10. We're going to see him keep opening up. Um, I absolutely think he's a guy. If you're looking for a young offensive minded head coach, Kenny Dillingham needs to be that. He's like if you can't get Lane Kiffin, get Kenny Dillingham.
Yeah. Let me throw a wild card out at you. One that no one's talking about, I don't think. And I don't know if it would work, but I think it would be a hire that would appease the fans. What about Joe Brady, Buffalo Bills
Yeah.
OC? What he did at LSU in 2019, I think that would make the fans very happy. Someone who has had success with good QB play. Now, the obvious thing is, well, he's never been a head coach. So obviously that would be a bold move to make. I don't think they would do it, but that's one that I'm like, listen, when in doubt, that wouldn't be too bad of a hire. You see what he's done with Josh Allen in the NFL. Who knows what he could do if he's able to scout and get the right offensive pieces in there. But I wanted to run one by you that I think is interesting. I was watching Josh Pate show. Shout out Josh Pate, future commissioner of college football. And then some hot boards that came out for LSU. Marcus Freeman's name's getting thrown around for this job. I haven't heard it be too serious, obviously, because we won't know until he actually does interviews for the job where these go. But do you really think we could see LSU go down the same route again after what just happened with Brian Kelly?
I would so stay away from doing that. Last time you did it, Notre Dame went to a national championship. Do it. I love Marcus Freeman, but do it. I'd love to have a national championship ring. I'm so not worried about it. He interviewed with the Chicago Bears and he well, I won't say turned down the offer, but he wasn't super duper interested in it. I could not. I honestly, it's same thing when the rumors came out that Penn State was going to throw $1 billion at him. I'll believe it when I see it. Like, I don't doubt people want to get Marcus Freeman. He's had a historic success in the first 3 years as a head coach in any coaching career. So I understand, and it's flattering, honestly, that his name is being brought up. I do not I just don't see a legitimate world that Marcus Freeman walks from the Notre Dame job. We're
I,
talking about a guy who literally converted to Catholicism after becoming the head coach of Notre Dame, to bring back mass, like team mass, on Sunday mornings.
I,
So
yeah.
he's committed.
I
I'm not
think
saying
so. I think so too. I think so too. I just saw the name on there and I'm like, I get why you're going after him, but I don't see it. I'll throw out one more and then we'll move on from the topics. We got a lot of things we still got to discuss for it. What about Jeff Brom at Louisville? I
don't
wouldn't hate that hire if I'm LSU. I wouldn't hate that hire.
I mean, he's clearly already, you can tell he's got a draw to talented quarterbacks in the transfer portal. Brought in Shuck last year, brings in Miller Moss this year. Now imagine how much more attractive it is to play for Jeff Brom, who's kind of this quarterback guru, this offense guru, and a guy who makes things happen. What he did at Purdue, what he's doing at again, we talked about it last week when Louisville finally started to enter these rankings. Um, since he's been at Louisville, Louisville's been a force in the
Oh,
ACC. In his first year, they go to the championship. They were a contender last year. They're right there this year. So you have a guy like that, and yeah, now he's going to have that extra draw of being at LSU. So imagine what he can do in the transfer portal where he's already had success.
my gosh.
Imagine what he can do. So yeah, I think Brom would be interesting. And then to touch on your Joe Brady, I don't hate Joe Brady. I think that's a phone call I'd make. I don't think he's going to pick up any college football offers. He interviewed for a
That's
lot of
fair.
NFL
That's
jobs.
fair.
He interviewed for a lot of head coaching jobs last year. I think he'll probably, I don't know if he'll get one, but I think he'll be interviewing for quite a few NFL head coaching jobs.
Yeah,
Uh,
I would agree.
um,
I would agree with that. I think it's a name where it's like, you know what? If they get to a point with the job where they're like, let's at least give them a call. Let's see what happens there. But again, ladies and gentlemen, this is where this coaching carousel at. It feels like we have a major domino falling every single week this season. And all I gotta say again is I've said it every single week. We're nowhere close to done with this. Auburn and Florida
yeah.
State feel like inevitably those jobs are gonna open. Who knows what random ones might open up as a wait, what? That job's open now? So this coaching carousel, I mean, I look forward to finding out this offseason. I just look forward to seeing how this coaching carousel is going to work because so many different things can happen that will lead to drastic effects all across the sport. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, I'll be more interested to see if LSU interviews Dave Aranda and kind of the time he's had at
Oh,
Baylor.
okay, okay.
Um, Also part of that national championship staff. But let's take a look at our teams and players of the week. And go ahead and kick it off with the top 5 teams of the week because this week, I'll say it was a little bit more fun. I know we have some varying answers. We got to take a little bit look and highlight some teams that didn't necessarily play in ranked matchups, some of these squads.
Yeah. So number 5, I had Cincy. What a performance they had. against Baylor. I mean, that was a game where I was screaming Baylor was going to win the game. Cincinnati throttled Baylor. They destroyed Baylor in that matchup. It was never even a contest, really. Number 4, BYU. I want to give them credit because, like, similar to the Baylor Cincinnati talk, I fully expected Iowa State to win this game. I fully expected Iowa State to come out and handle it. But the defense made the big plays. And BYU, I mean, I doubt he would ever leave, but Kalani Sitake, what he's done at BYU might earn him a chance to get interviews at some of these jobs with what he's done there. Number 3, Washington. I hate doing this for your Illinois boys, but Washington absolutely carved up Illinois on Saturday. I mean, it was not even a contest. The offense was incredible. Obviously, I'll talk more about that in the Player of the Week segment. Number 2 was Memphis. Obviously, talking about what they did, being able to go in and come back, score 17 unanswered against South Florida, who looks like a perennial power, to go out and beat them, I thought was really impressive. But number 1, yeah, I threw a little bit of a wild card in there. If you saw this ending, you would know why I did it. I got Wake Forest in number 1, taking down SMU, giving SMU their first ACC regular season loss. Yes, think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Of all the teams in the ACC, it's Wake Forest who gives SMU their first ACC loss, but mainly the way it happened. They were down 12-10 late in the game. They're driving down the field, and they fumbled the ball inside the 5-yard line. SMU recovers, and you think, that's game. There's no way they're going to be able to do it. But they get the 3 and out, then they go down then they get the great punt return. 1 or 2 plays, they're in field goal range. Kicker's career long was like 43, 44 yards. This is a 55, 54-yard field goal, I think, was what it was. So it's like, no way. Absolutely drills it on the final play. And listen, I got to give some credit to Jack Dickert, the former Washington State coach last year, who this is his first year at Wake Forest. He's got Wake Forest at 5-2 in year number 1. So had to show him some love and give him some credit. They're a team that talent-wise, they may not be there, but coaching, they've got a great coach that's going to help them win a lot of games. And they're a team I look forward to keeping an eye on, maybe even next year, for what they could be in this ACC.
Yeah, and I kind of love the trust in the kicker. Wake Forest this close to making my list. But like you said, when you're going like 11, 12 yards past your kicker's longest made field goal, I love that he's like, I'm going to let our team's fate rest in this guy's hands. That's how much I believe in this guy. Awesome to see. But at number 5 for me, I went with Iowa. Look, and we talked about how impressed we were with this Minnesota team. And for Iowa to come out and dominate the scoreboard.
Rank Iowa, you cowards. I know we'll talk more about that later, but rank Iowa, you cowards. Rank them.
They're scared. They're too scared to rank Iowa right now. The NCAA doesn't know what to do if Iowa can score 40-plus points offensively. Football's in shambles. Then at number 4, I went with Cincinnati. I didn't necessarily think Baylor would win this game, but I certainly thought this game would be a lot closer, a lot more competitive. And for Cincinnati's 7th win in a row to be this dominant and this explosive, man, they look fierce right now. And number 3, I went with Ole Miss. I know the stakes weren't, this wasn't the biggest ranked matchup, but to me, the stakes were still incredibly high for both of these teams in this game. And both teams needed to win. And for Ole Miss's offense to have kind of fallen apart, to come back and be explosive like this, and Chambliss to look a lot better. Still 20 incompletions, which I don't entirely love. But that is also the Lane Kiffin offense, chunking the ball a lot. But no turnovers, over 300 yards. Hats off there. Get a big win. Stay relevant in the SEC and the college football playoff conversation. And number 2, I've got Houston. I love this win. A big win over Arizona State, continuing that Big 12 trend. And just keeping yourself in the conversation. I mean, like you said, they haven't really done anything up to this point that's made them like they've been good, and I've really liked watching them play football, but they haven't done anything that makes you think they're going to be a legitimate contender in the Big 12, maybe a legitimate contender for a college football playoff spot. And then they go out and they win this game by 8 points. And so to continue that momentum and to keep winning and now getting the biggest win of your season so far. Hats off to Houston, what they've been able to do. And then at number one, I went with Memphis. Another game where the stakes were huge. Had to take guts to win this game, and it had to take 17 unanswered in the fourth quarter to get the job done. Hats off to the Memphis Tigers for what they were able to do against a USF team that's really been rolling against everybody they've played except Miami. And they rolled in this game. But Memphis was able to find the answers in that fourth quarter and keep themselves alive in the college football playoff and the American Conference. On social media, Instagram, Wake Forest, Houston, Memphis getting votes. And then over on Twitter, we had Memphis and Houston getting votes. But when Memphis is number one on on my list, number two on your list, and they're getting votes in all the polls, you know what that means.
Yeah.
Memphis is a team of the week, and rightfully so, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's to be fair, I think it's definitely a valid argument to have them at number one for that great comeback win on their home field. Don't screw it up. It's right in front of you to be that group of five representative. Don't screw it up. That's all I'm going to add to it. But congrats on the team of the week.
Absolutely. Now take us into your top five players of the week. It's not particularly close when we actually start to look at who our overall player of the week is.
I mean,
and
but
rightfully
yeah.
so. But let's talk about one great performance as well as a handful of others.
Yeah, let's talk about him. Number five, I got Eddie Walls, the third for Houston defensive lineman. Houston's great win over Arizona State. 3 sacks by Eddie Walls in this game. A really good performance by him. Transfer from Florida International, I learned, actually, coming over to Houston.
Wow, FIU.
So, yeah. So I had to show him some love. Number 4, Kyron Drones. Totally different note. How about that Cal Virginia Tech game? That game was a thriller and a half this past week on a Friday night. And Kyron Drones was part of it. Had 119 yards throwing, passing the ball, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. 137 yards rushing and 2 rushing touchdowns in the game. He was doing everything for them offensively. This is the Kyron Drones that I was expecting to see, last year and what I was hoping to see this year for them. And so I hope to see it continue. Keep an eye on him in the transfer portal this year. I know someone in that SEC or in that Big Ten is going to look to overpay for him. I know good and dang well they will. Number 3, Damon Williams, one of my favorites from the preseason, Washington. Phenomenal game. I'm pretty sure. Did you have him last week on your
I had him last week or the week before. Very recently, he was on. Yeah. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I had him on my list.
But I mean, had to show him some love for 26 for 33, 280 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions against a pretty solid Illinois defense. I mean, he carved them up. So I had to show him some love there. Number 2, Casey Concepcion from Texas A&M. The man was doing everything, receiving the football. Had a receiving touchdown in the game. But the big punt return that really kind of opened things up, I think, for them was awesome return that really opened it up for him. Had to show him some love. What a guy he's been for A&M coming out of the transfer portal. I think he was at NC State last year, wasn't he, if I remember correctly? I'm pretty sure he was at NC State.
Something like that.
I had to show him some love. But number 1, ladies and gentlemen, listen, yeah, like you said, it's really not a contest here at what number 1 was. Any quarterback that goes 37 of 49 for 608 yards and 4 touchdowns, it's hard not to put that kind of performance at number 1, which is Drew Mestemaker at number 1 for my player of the week. We'll say the one thing I love about it, Austin, with that performance, 3 receivers over 100 yards receiving for North Texas in this game. So it wasn't like it was just one guy he was throwing to. It was, I'm going to throw to him, I'm going to throw to him, I'm going to throw to him, all over the place. Yep. So, yeah, easily number 1 performance of the week, no doubt. And it wasn't even on Saturday.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. Drew Mestemaker was sitting at number 1 on my list since the game concluded, just to be honest with you. But my number 5 player, Thomas Anderson, cornerback out of Missouri State. And this isn't just to highlight Thomas Anderson, but to highlight an entire defense from Missouri State.
Yeah.
4 interceptions by this team in a game that still went to overtime. But Thomas Anderson, kind of leader of the pack. He did have an interception, playing cornerback, and also get this, led the team in tackles at 10.
Woo!
Don't see that very often from a cornerback.
No.
Then at number 4, I went with Quentin Jackson, running back from Rice. This guy
Mm.
had 21 carries for 168 yards and a hat trick, 3 touchdowns, and Rice's 37-34 victory over UConn. Also, shout out to my guy Joe Fagano again.
Another
No
solid game. Another
interceptions.
solid game.
Yes, another solid game and keeps that perfect no interception streak running. I'm glad I didn't jinx him after last week talking about it. At number 3, I went with KJ Duff, wide receiver at Rutgers. This guy had 6 receptions for 240 yards and a touchdown in their 27-24 victory over Purdue. Over 200 yards receiving is something else. When you can just feed a guy that many times and they can't stop it, you got to give a hats off.
Yeah.
Uh, then hats off to my king, Haynes King. We already know plenty about Haynes King, but he throws over 300 yards this week. 25 for 31, 304 yards, 3 touchdowns, not to mention 91 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns via the run game as well. Is it fair to say I think Haynes King should be in the running for the Heisman
Oh,
this
absolutely.
year? You talk about
Absolutely.
a top 10 ranking for Georgia Tech. And it's not just the run game, which we know he does so well, but in games like this game against this Syracuse team, where he 6 incompletions, 304 yards, and 3 touchdowns passing the football.
Austin,
Haynes King, he's
yeah.
dialed it up this year.
I just I want you to picture this in your mind because it's a very realistic thing. Imagine 3 Heisman finalists that are Fernando Mendoza, quarterback at Indiana, Diego Pavia, QB at Vanderbilt, and Haynes King, QB at Georgia Tech. Imagine those 3, and it's very realistic. That could be the 3 Heisman finalists this year. That is an entirely realistic scenario that I think would make all of America happy. And no matter who won, we'd all be like, you know what? Good for them. Good for them. Good for them.
Yeah, that is what should happen. Unfortunately, it probably won't happen. Um, And number 1, obviously Drew Mestamaker, an incredible performance. I won't delve into all the stats over and over again, but on social media, Mestamaker winning polls, Haynes King getting some votes, and Casey Concepcion also getting some votes. But it's just insurmountable when this guy's winning polls, and he's number 1 on both lists. It's impossible. Drew Mestamaker is the Ashton Jeanty Bull Take Podcast Player of the Week.
All right. Over under amount of money that guy picks up in NIL revenue this offseason.
It's gonna be absolutely stupid. I can tell you that
And
much.
again, the crazy part is the man's only a freshman. That's the crazy part in all this. The man's only a freshman. So he could get even better next year, realistically. So boy, oh boy, congrats to him and to Memphis. Look at us getting the American involved in both the team and the player of the week.
Yeah, absolutely deserved an exciting conference. But look, let's go and take a look at that AP poll. I know we missed it last week, and we got to make up for it this week. I sleepless all week thinking about missing the AP poll, and so I won't rob us of the joy this time. But at number 1, we've got Ohio State. Number 2, Indiana. Number 3, A&M. Number 4, Alabama. Number 5, Georgia. Number 6, Oregon. Nothing has changed. But then Ole Miss up 1 spot to 7. Georgia Tech down 1 spot to 8. Vandy up 1 to 9, and BYU up 1 to 10, kind of technically, and Miami down 1 to 10. They're tied at 10, which I think is stupid.
Yeah.
Just make BYU 10 and Miami 11.
Right.
But I will say this before I let you talk, because I want to say it, and I feel like you might say exactly what I'm about to say, so I'm going to beat you to it. I absolutely despise Georgia Tech and Miami falling in this week's rankings. And I'll tell you why. Because they both won in dominant fashion. And I understand that Vanderbilt got a big win ranked this week. And I understand Ole Miss got a big win ranked this week. But actually, Ole Miss is better than Oklahoma. I don't count that as a big win. Even though it meant something for Ole Miss, it doesn't mean anything for the AP poll. Georgia Tech should still be 7, and Miami should probably still be in the top 10. Um, I just don't know how you can punish two teams for going out there and absolutely curb stomping teams well below their station in their conference.
Yeah.
I just think it's
Yeah.
stupid that Georgia Tech falls. I like Vandy. I like Ole Miss. I'm more okay with Vandy moving up because their game meant a little bit more. They were playing a higher ranked team and a better team. Um, but I do not understand Ole Miss and Georgia Tech flip flopping. That's stupid to me.
Yeah. In all honesty, it's no disrespect to Ole Miss. I think they could have deserved to gone up, but with the way the rest of the rankings are set, I'm really surprised there was any movement at all between them and Georgia Tech. I realistically thought it would stay ultimately the same, except I do agree with getting BYU a chance to maybe move up a little bit there over Miami. Maybe it's that one's hard for me to kind of figure out since they tied. Like you said, for the love of everything, just put one at 11 and put one at 12. Come on, or like put one at 10, put one at 11. I mean, it's not a hard concept to do, but this top of the ladder has been the same for the last couple of weeks. It's really been these same ones. And ladies and gentlemen, don't worry. We are going to see some changes here this next week because this is the last week before the college football playoff rankings come out next Tuesday, which, of course, obviously is going to be the factor in all that. We'll look forward to breaking that down next week and seeing what the committee thinks and how similar it's going to be to the AP poll. But yeah, I would agree. Georgia Tech and Miami really dropping doesn't deserve. They don't really deserve that for their performances. Uh, it feels like, and it's something that hurts, a lot of people because this is the mantra everywhere is the SEC bias. Like, oh, of course Ole Miss moves up. Of course Vandy moves up. And I'm like, okay, I get your argument with Ole Miss, but leave Vandy out of this, okay? This is
Yeah.
new for Vandy. Leave them alone. They have
Yeah,
not done anything wrong here, okay?
they don't tend to benefit from SEC bias
I know.
usually.
The only SEC
Um,
bias they get is in the classroom usually, okay?
yes,
So
agreed.
leave them alone.
Um, but then at number 12, we've got Notre Dame staying put after an idle week. Number 13, Texas Tech is up a spot. Number 14, Tennessee's up 3 spots. Number 15, Virginia's up a spot. Um, so with these four teams here, uh, I think everything's right. Now I really am surprised that Virginia didn't move down. Actually, I thought they might be
Yeah.
punished a little bit. But I think what helped them is Oklahoma and Missouri both losing ahead of them and kind of clearing more of a pathway to move up. I think they more just naturally moved up than anything.
Again, like you said a few weeks ago, it's just nice to see Virginia in the rankings. Now a top 15 team where, depending on what happens the rest of the year, they could be looking at a play-in spot in that ACC championship. Have no issues here. Tennessee moving up 3 spots. I was kind of surprised they moved up that much. If you want my honest opinion, I feel like Louisville should have taken their spot. They could have flip-flopped, uh, put Louisville at 14 and Tennessee at 16. In my honest opinion, I would have probably done that instead. But I mean, as a whole, really no issues because I mean Tennessee is going to take care of itself whenever it takes on Oklahoma this week and Vandy in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, agreed. Then at 16, Louisville up 3 spots. 17, Cincinnati's up 4 spots. 18, Oklahoma drops down 5 spots. 19, Missouri drops down 4 spots. And 20, Texas moving up 2 more spots. And I'll say this much about Texas. Um, I guess, like, yes, Mississippi State is a better team than Kentucky. But how, after the way they played in Kentucky, where they barely won, they drop down spots, but then they're kind of getting whooped on most of this Mississippi State game, and then they have a good comeback. I'm not going to discredit the comeback, but they have this comeback and win. How is that worth moving up 2 spots? If anything, I'm thinking stay the same or drop down a spot. I just don't think you can have 3 really bad weeks of football in a row and be sitting in the top 20.
Yeah, I would agree that I think the thing that helps them is literally 4 new teams entering the rankings this week below them. And they're like, well, Texas won, so we can't really drop them out or really move them down because we got to make sure all these new teams get in there that we want to put in there. That's the only reasoning I see for it. Um, And again, it's annoying and stuff, but like I said, the good news is it should take care of itself. Texas still has to play three more top 10 teams before the season's over. So I'm not really that worried about it because, like I said, it'll take care of itself, whether it's Texas winning and moving up or Texas losing and dropping out ultimately. So no, I get the argument there. I will say I did like them dropping Oklahoma and Missouri, like dropping them where they deserve to get dropped, but not like completely out of the top 25. I do like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is your kind of like we talked about with LSU literally last week. You got your warning shots. You've been
Hmm.
dropped down. This is your chance. This is like kind of last chance to keep yourself in the college football playoff rankings or keep yourself in the AP poll for the next couple weeks. You lose this week and you're going to drop out, and we're going to start bringing up some of these other deserving teams.
Hmm.
Um, at 21, we've got Michigan. 22, Houston joins the rankings. 23, USC joins the rankings. 24, Utah joins the rankings. And 25, Memphis joins the rankings. Uh, I mean, I think this is an interesting group of teams to bring in. Um, I understand again. I like Utah and I like them being ranked. I kind of thought when they lost that they shouldn't have really fallen out of the rankings. I thought maybe a 25 would have been a better
Right.
spot for them, especially because I knew we'd probably be in this situation now where they'd come back into the rankings immediately after. And that's what's happened. My issue is I know they dominated Colorado, but it's also Colorado.
Hmm.
So I don't know. There are some other teams that I like down there that are close and hanging around, but I don't think Utah is entirely undeserving either. Again, if I had it my way, they would have never fallen out of the rankings.
Yeah. Let me just say this. My argument is with USC. How the hell does USC go from unranked to ranked without playing a game? Like, how do you do that? How
That's
do you pull that
that's
off? I mean,
true.
it's astonishing to me how they're ranked. Undefeated Navy's not. 7-1 Tulane's not. I really don't get how they're not ranked. I thought those two teams deserved an opportunity to be ranked. See how this American plays out. My bias pick is obviously Washington and Iowa. I think they deserve to be ranked as well, especially Iowa, because like you said, Iowa destroyed Minnesota on Saturday. It was nowhere near a game. They destroyed them offensively, defense, and special teams, all three aspects. It wasn't like the defense just saved the day. It was a throttling for them. So I get the argument for some of the other teams, but the USC one just legit makes me mad because I'm like, they literally did nothing. Why are they being rewarded with a ranking here? That's the main one that really does bother me.
Yeah, and you talk about that win over Minnesota for Iowa. I mean, we're talking about a Minnesota team, not just that we thought was good, but I believe they were like top two or three, or maybe the top one team that received votes last week that didn't make the top 25.
Hmm.
So for Iowa to basically beat an almost ranked team and just get nothing for it, you're right, kind of sucks. I'm waiting for Navy to hit the rankings. Um, but we'll see about that. Let's talk about some of our game previews for this upcoming week, um, and really talk about what an awesome slate we've got coming up. Um, and it starts with Penn State versus number one Ohio State this weekend. And look, this game doesn't have nearly the draw that it's had over the last couple of years. But it's still a rivalry game, and there are still good players at Penn State. Uh, and I think just the thing to watch here is I don't think Ohio State will lose this game. They've looked really good this season, but they can. We've been talking about the last couple of weeks, and we've seen some teams kind of sleepwalk into these games. Alabama did it last week, and they were able to come out alive. Uh, you still can't sleepwalk into this game. This state team's going to come in and fired up and try and prove a point anyway. This is still a rivalry game, and this is still a talented roster. Ohio State's got to come in here and play them like they would have played them had things gone the way they were supposed to this season for Penn State. Like this is a top five matchup.
Yeah, had Ohio State given up double-digit points to multiple different teams, I would be a little bit more worried for them going into this game. Ohio State's been just flat out butt kicking everyone. Again, the only team that scored double-digit points against them was Illinois. So until I see a team score double-digit points against this defense in the Big Ten, I really don't see a team really competing with them besides Indiana. Obviously, we could get that matchup in the Big Ten championship. How awesome would that be for a matchup in the Big Ten? Um, but yeah, I just don't see anything getting in Ohio State's way. I'll be honest with you. I don't see anything getting in Ohio State's way until Ann Arbor on November 29th. Until Ryan Day gets it done, I am not giving that win to Michigan, no, or to Ohio State, no matter how good or bad Michigan is. I'm not giving that to him until he can actually prove it. So I'm not really worried about this game for Ohio State. I will say this. I do look forward to seeing at some point when are we going to see this Ohio State offense be explosive or maybe get punched in the mouth because Ohio State has yet to truly have that happen this year where, it's a breakaway touchdown. All of a sudden they're down like 10 to nothing. You're like, whoa, okay, that's new. So if Penn State can provide that, then I look forward to seeing how this goes. But other than that, I expect Ohio State to handle business here.
Yeah, then next, number 10 Miami versus SMU. I know SMU is coming off that first loss in
Woo!
the ACC since coming over. But still, with Miami, look, we're thinking about you got to test it. And look, Miami did win big against Stanford, but they started very slow. Stanford got up early in this game. Um, Here's the thing I worry about for Miami. We thought we had seen the better team, but look, they have that loss now against Louisville. And we're starting to wonder. We're going to see SMU, who's a pretty good team, that's going to test them. Um, can Mario Cristobal rewrite the story from last season, or can we see another late season collapse? And I just don't think we're out of the clear yet. I'm not saying SMU is going to win this game, but I think this game is going to go a long way in determining is this Miami team really different from last year's team?
Yeah, this one's interesting. Mainly to me, as funny as it is, as fun as it is talking about what these offenses do, this is intriguing to me for the defensive sides of the ball. Miami's been clearing away the best defense in the ACC, but SMU number one by far in the ACC in sacks so far this year. So they know how to get pressure on the quarterback, make him uncomfortable. And we've seen if you make Carson Beck uncomfortable, we know exactly what will happen. We saw it with Louisville. So if SMU can get pressure on Carson Beck, I like their chances. To me, this feels like a lower scoring game to me between these two teams. But talking about the factors, you're absolutely right. Can Mario Cristobal right the ship and get a win here? And again, they need help because as of right now, they need help in order to get into that Big Ten, into that ACC championship. They got to win out, and they need some help to happen.
Yeah, that's the craziest part about this whole thing is how much help they actually are going to need, and they're going to have to get the job done. Um, then we've got Navy versus North Texas, and look, this game really should just be
Woo!
a game pick, but I just want to highlight it here real quick. Um, it's going to be an awesome game. Two exciting teams. We saw uh, what Drew Mestemaker did last year or last week. We're seeing what Blake Horvath is doing this season, continuing on what they built last year. But look, I what I like so much about this Navy offense is how much success Blake Horvath's had throwing the ball. And it's not just where it was last year. It was like, whoa, these triple option teams are throwing the ball now and they're throwing for 150, 200 yards. I mean, Blake Horvath has had some
Yep.
350-yard passing games this season. So this is a different looking Navy team that's really showed why they're 7-0, but this is going to be their first real big test in this American Conference.
Yeah, I just look forward to it. Number one passing offense in the American versus the number one rushing offense in the American. I'm not gonna lie, I am a bit offended. It's not a game pick. I won't lie, but I get why because there's so many other games, so I get it. This is so exciting. I really wish this is where game day went. If you want my honest opinion, but they didn't go to an SEC game, so I'm not as mad about it. So, but these are two great offenses. I'm very curious again on who's going to get the stops on the defensive end in this one. North Texas has been pretty solid getting pressure on the quarterback, but Navy has been a pretty solid defense, not giving up too many points. But this will be their toughest test. These are two great offenses going head to head. What more could you want in deciding what this American's going to be this week?
Agreed. And I think our next matchup, we've got a Big 12 title eliminator. I'm going to go ahead and dub it that.
That's fair.
Arizona State versus Iowa State. Look, now technically by my criteria, I wouldn't officially eliminate Arizona State uh, because
Right.
they'd only be 3 losses in conference. But it would be tough to lose these 2 games back to back, and then you need a lot to go your way, including going undefeated in conference play the rest of the stretch. And for Iowa State, this is the eliminator in my book. You lose this game, you're at 4 losses, you're done. So you're not competing for that title. So if it's going to be a big clash against 2 teams that looked like they were going to be at the top of the Big 12, but now they're just fighting to stay afloat in this title race. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm just looking at 2 coaches who are going to have their names come up in a lot of searches this summer. I guarantee you, both coaches here,
Agreed.
Matt Campbell and Kenny Dillingham, that might be what distracted them both this year in all honesty, is knowing how many jobs are going to be open with that. But this is intriguing for both sides. Similar to what I've said every single week. Is Sam Levitt playing? If Sam Levitt is 100%, then I like Arizona State's chances. But if he's not 100%, I could see it for Iowa State. I will say this. I would like this Iowa State defense to play a lot better. This Iowa State defense has usually been a solid unit under Matt Campbell. They have struggled the last couple of weeks, especially in Big 12 play defensively. So that's my worry ultimately with Iowa State is what can their defense do? Arizona State's been pretty solid again, pressure on the quarterback. If Sam Levitt's playing, I like Arizona State, but I won't know 100% until obviously kickoff and what he looks like. So this is a tough one. This would be a as per usual in the Big 12. This game's probably a coin flip.
Yeah, agreed. Another big game in the Big 12, Kansas State versus Texas Tech. Uh, Kansas State, another team I thought would be competing in this Big 12. They haven't had the season they've expected, but they're still a talented roster. They get to host Texas Tech. It's just a matter of can Texas Tech come out here, answer the call, win this game, and keep themselves right in this title race, or does Kansas State steal one from Texas Tech and put them a little bit further behind in this race?
Hey, I mean, this just kind of screams trap game to me because Texas Tech, I'm going to say it. If they don't say it on College Game Day this week, I'll be mad. This has game day implications because they win this game. They got top 10 BYU coming to town. So to me, this is a trap game for Texas Tech. I would be more worried, but this Texas Tech defense has been just insane this year. Whether it's against the run or when it comes to getting pressure on the quarterback and throwing the ball, it really doesn't matter. This Texas Tech defense is just that good. So I'm really not worried, but at the same time, it's a trap game. It's a trap game knowing what's at stake next week and what that showdown with BYU next week can be. And Kansas State, obviously it's not been the year they expected. I'll tell you this, after the Army game, it's a heck of a lot better than I expected them to be in, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And they beat TCU. They blew out Kansas last week. So their offense is slowly picking things up these last couple of weeks. This will be a good test to see how good their offense can truly be the rest of the year against the best defense in the Big 12.
Agreed. And then the last game preview we're going to do here. And look, I told you this team would probably be on this segment for the rest of the season. And after the way they played last week, that's going to continue to happen. South Carolina, Ole Miss facing off this week. And now, it is in Oxford. Realistically, Ole Miss should just win this game. But South Carolina looked a lot better. They looked like the South Carolina we expected to see this season. I'm not saying we're going to get that every week, but you have to think playing a little bit better, they're going to give Ole Miss a game. I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm not even saying they're going to cover the 12.5-point
Right.
spread. But I think it's worth noting that Lenore Sellers is in a groove right now. Unfortunately, Ole Miss played really, really good last week, so that doesn't help South Carolina very much. But just to keep an eye out, there's a South Carolina team that has a lot of talent. I expect them to be competitive even in these big games, just like they were last week. I said it last week, and I was right. I'm not saying they'll keep it that close, but I think South Carolina is a team that you can't start looking past just because of that 3-5, 3-6 record, whatever it looks like right now.
No, every game in the SEC until besides those teams at the bottom is really going to be one-score games pretty much throughout. No matter what they actually are. Ole Miss's offense, again, has been awesome. It's been hard for anybody to stop them. Um, but South Carolina or Ole Miss's defense has struggled stopping the run. That has been something that's hurt them. You saw it even in that Oklahoma game, even though they won. They gave up some big plays in the run game. So if South Carolina can get this run game going with Lenore Sellers and whoever wants to help him out, does anybody want to help Lenore Sellers out? Anybody at all? If anybody can help him out, especially in the ground game, then they have a chance to pull off the upset in Oxford. But I'm not betting against that Ole Miss offense. And their defense played a pretty solid game as a whole last week against Oklahoma, besides a few gaffes in the run game there. So I would say Ole Miss, but like I said, you got to be careful with Beamer ball. Beamer ball is a weird thing. Weird points are scored for South Carolina. You got to be ready for all kinds of tricks you could see from the Gamecocks in Oxford on Saturday.
Agreed. Now let's take it to our 3 game picks this week. Number 1, we've got number 9 Vanderbilt going into Austin, Texas, to take on the number 20 Texas Longhorns. What do you think about this game, and who do you think is going to win it?
Well, obviously, the big thing is whether or not Arch plays in the game. I think that'll be a question mark, is if it's backup QB play. Um, I'm curious. These are two really good defenses in my mind. Vandy and Texas have been two really good defenses in the matchup. That evens them out. Offenses are all right, but it comes down to me is which quarterback do I trust more in the matchup? And if you're even wondering where I'm leaning, I'll go ahead and tell you it's not a hard pick for me. It's Diego Pavia over the matchup, whoever's playing a quarterback for Texas. So I'm going to pick Vandy to win on the road in this one. Low scoring affair, probably a really close game. But Vandy, I think, finds a way, knowing what's at stake, if they can keep on winning the rest of the season.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going Vanderbilt in this game. It's going to be a tough and gritty game, but who does tough and gritty better than Diego Pavia and the
Fair
Commodores?
point.
I'm going to go Vandy all day. Maybe this just is a Vanderbilt podcast now, but that's what it has to be.
I will gladly take. You want to call us Vandy Glazers? Make us shirts that call us Vandy Glazers, and I'll wear that sucker every week. Say I
Yeah,
won't do it. Say I
I
won't
hope.
do it, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, it's just they're a different breed right now. What they're doing in Nashville is impressive. Then we've got number 18 Oklahoma versus number 14 Tennessee. Look, Oklahoma, this is a beg and plead to try and stay in the top 25. And even though, I kind of wrote them off earlier in this episode, you get a win against Tennessee, number 14, and you can start to kind of linger at that 2-loss SEC school. But look what we did closer to the end of the season. Look what we did after we lost to Ole Miss. Look at our bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
So this is certainly a good resume builder. And again, if you lose, you're probably out of the top 25, which is where
Yep.
you don't want to be. And this close to the college football playoff rankings come out, you really don't want to have yourself knocked outside the top 25. For Tennessee, this is a chance to stay relevant in the playoff picture, a chance to stay relevant in the SEC. Definitely do not want to lose this game on either side. Must win for both teams. Who do you got?
This is just an intriguing matchup for the fact that it's literally, according to the stats, it's the number one offense in the SEC versus the number one defense in the SEC. So, I mean, this is intriguing for that factor on many things. It's in Neyland and Nice. That already gives Tennessee an edge. And I trust in Oklahoma's defense, except for their secondary. Their secondary is my biggest worry. And Tennessee's got the best passing offense in the entire SEC. So, along with that, also given where John Mateer and where the offense truly stands as a whole right now, I'll be rooting for John Mateer to make some big plays. But if I'm being honest with you, I got to pick Tennessee to win this game. I just don't see Oklahoma's secondary being able to keep up in the passing game. And also, I don't think Oklahoma's offense is going to be able to keep up needing the scores necessary. Because while this Tennessee offense or this defense isn't the best, Oklahoma needs to put up a lot of points. That's really something they haven't done a lot of this year.
Yeah, I think if these two teams were facing off at their best, would it be an all-time classic?
Yeah.
Yes. And would I like Oklahoma a little bit more? Yes. But yeah, since Mateer's come back from the surgery, you can tell he's still not quite right, which is why the timeline was supposed to be much bigger
Yep.
than it was. He's still kind of working through some things. And like you said, not being able to get a lot of help. The last 2 weeks, they have had 100-yard rushers not named John Mateer. That
Hmm.
is helpful. But they're going to need to be able to score fast, score quick, and score a lot to keep up with this Tennessee offense, and I just don't see that happening. So I'm going to go with
Yeah.
the Volunteers here.
And I will say this
No,
though. I will say this. If Oklahoma loses this, they still have to play so many other ranked teams. This could start a ugly downward trend to end the year for Oklahoma. And I don't want to say it could cost Brent Venables his job, but given where the frick we're at in this coaching carousel, would it really surprise anybody at all?
Yeah, I guess it wouldn't surprise me, but I will say this. That would be a supreme overreaction
Oh,
to a
I
team that
agree. I agree.
to to a team that was top 10 caliber until your starting quarterback sustained a serious injury to his throwing hand. I think that would be a supreme overreaction.
I, I
From a
100%
stand.
agree, but we saw
But
overreactions by Penn State, by
agreed, agreed.
LSU, and who knows by what other jobs we'll see. So we've seen them be on quick triggers with some of these schools. So if you go on a losing streak here to end the year and finish 6-6, 7-5, somewhere around there, it wouldn't shock me. I would be like, I don't think that's the right move, but it would not shock me. So they need to win this game if
Yeah,
they can.
agreed. Then you've got final game here. 17, Cincinnati heads to Salt Lake City to take on number 24, Utah.
Woo!
Huge matchup in the Big 12. Utah could really use this win to make this Big 12 title picture so much more interesting. Cincinnati wins 8 in a row. Ooh, I don't know who's going to stop this team if they can dominate this game. Who do you think's going to win?
So looking at the actual matchup here, two really good offenses at the top of the Big 12, especially two of the best when it comes to running the football. Also, you got a really good defense for Utah. I think that could be the ultimate factor. So ultimately, Utah, I think, has the better defense in the matchup. I think they could slow it down. Plus, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, it is a night game in Salt Lake City, Utah. Do you really think I'm going to bet Utah against Utah in a late night home game? Not a chance. I'm going to pick Utah to win this game.
Yeah, Utah's awesome. I think they're the better team in this matchup at their very, very best. But Utah has been very, very inconsistent. They have
Mm-hmm.
games where they look like the best team in the country, and then they have teams where they look like a JV football team wandered onto the field. And that's no disrespect. I really like this team, and I really like the
Yeah.
athletes on it.
Plus, no
But
Devon Dampier. Devon Dampier has been kind of questionable health wise the
yeah,
last few weeks.
they just sometimes they don't ring the bell, and that's with and without Devin Dampier. They don't ring
Mm-hmm.
the bell. Um, So in this game, I'm going to go with Cincinnati to get a signature win, 8 in a row, and look like a supreme force in this Big 12 conference.
Okay.
That takes us into our final segment, the bet of the week, where I have just been absolutely ice cold.
Yeah.
Don't bet with me. Maybe bet against me.
Again,
But
like we said last week, you could fade us and it worked out. Shout out Arkansas for one of the worst fourth quarters I've ever seen to ruin that bet. Thank you, Arkansas. I would say I'm shocked by it, but I'm really not.
yeah, take us into your bet of the week. What's your thought process?
So there's a couple I was considering here, and I'm thinking, how can I get back on track here? It's just something that I really don't know about. And so I kind of feel like I need to take a sure bet here. So I'll just say it like it is. I'm going to take Ohio State minus 20 and a half against Penn State. I think Ohio State's going to throttle Penn State at home. I don't think it'll be a con. It might be close in the it was 28 to nothing because it was close covering the spread, I guess you could say there, or 28 to 7. But with it being under 21, and I'll go ahead and probably bet that right after this really quick to make sure I can get it under 21. So yeah, I'm going to take Ohio State minus 20 and a half against Penn State. They're going to destroy them. I feel pretty confident in that.
I like it. I like your thought process. But for me, I've just decided absolutely so cold. I almost sneezed there. That
It's a sign. It's a sign.
I'm just gonna start. I'm not even gonna think about how bad of a year it's been for the bet of the week for me. I'm just not even. I'm just gonna go with what sounds appealing, what sounds right. And SMU plus 11 versus Miami is
That's not a
screaming
bad
at
one.
me. I almost wanted to say SMU money line, but I won't go that far. They cover the spread. They might just win at home, but they're at home. They've played really, really well since moving over to the ACC. And Miami under Mario Cristobal just hasn't been better than what it was, but it hasn't been what they thought it was going to be. I think we could be in store for another collapse for the Miami Hurricanes, and I think this SMU game might be the start of it. I like SMU plus 11.
Okay. All right. Let's see if we can get back on track, ladies and gentlemen. Please, please let us get back on track. I beg you. Please let us get back on track.
Yeah, let us get back on track. But that's going to do it for us here at the Bull Take Podcast. We'll have an NFL episode coming out very, very soon. Monday Night Football on tonight. Commanders versus Chiefs. And Team of Player of the Week polls, they go up on our social medias, Instagram, Twitter. You can go to our personal accounts to find, we'll usually share stuff from the Bull Take Podcast account if you need help tracking it down. But that's where we do our votes for our players and Team of the Week. But that's Austin Wader. I'm Austin Hill, and we want to thank you for listening.